Welcome to the four-part mini-series of Let's Build the Outrider YT-2400 from Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button and help me in supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. So today, we're going to be starting our four-part mini-series on the Outrider. And without further ado, we're going to jump right into this thing. So before we get started, want to make sure that you're going on whatever search engine that you're using and do a search for Outrider YT-2400 Star Wars Shadows of the Empire. Look up your reference material, your 3D model. And then from there, once we have our reference material, we're going to search Pixel Circle Generator. It's going to bring you up to a page like this, and for our width and height, you're going to enter in 41 by 41. We're going to be building this first initial ring about 10 blocks off the ground, not very high, and I'm going to be skipping ahead to when this step has already been completed. So we've got our base initial ring done. We're going to be getting quite a bit done in today's episode. Pretty much the entire frame of the ship. So now once we've got our first initial ring completed, we're going to be going with the gray concrete, or excuse me, the dark gray concrete. And we're going to be doing a layer on the top and bottom going all the way around. Our initial ring, I used white concrete. Not going to be building all this out live, just going to do a section of it, just to give you guys a gust of what we're going to be doing. And then I'll skip ahead to once this has been completed. So we're going to complete that going all the way around, top and bottom. Once you've completed it, you should have something that looks like this, with a dark gray ring on the top, as well as the bottom. Now, I'm going off of our first line, and I'm basically starting to build the wireframe out for the right side of the ship. We're doing a pattern of 4, or excuse me, after the second cut. And we've done 6 layers, or excuse me, not 6 layers, but 6 rows going in with the cut line. And that's layer number 7. So basically what I'm doing right now, going back to my reference material, my 3D model that I was able to find online, as well as whatever reference photos I was able to find, and I'm just looking at the base shape of the Outrider. This is why I say when we're wireframing, essentially what we're doing is framing out the overall shape of the ship. That's looking pretty good. We probably could make that a little bit wider and stretch that out just a bit right here. You could bring that out maybe a couple more blocks. So now I'm getting the dimensions for a new ring. So we're not counting our dead space block. So I'm going 6 back. So this is going to be a 12 by 12 for our new ring. Now if you enter in 12 by 12, it's not going to give you your dead space X access point. So you're going to want to enter and adjust that to 13 by 13. Otherwise you will not have that dead space gray block dividing your circle up into 4 pieces. Very important to have that in place. So this way we can... Main reason why I do that also is that having our dead space block, we're able to determine a center point for our rings, no matter what. This is why I always, always, always build them out in this fashion. Now, to save time, what I'm doing is I'm building all 4 sides of my ring at the same time, because I already have my starting points. And once you have your starting point, it makes it a lot easier to build this out. Very, very simple template that we're doing here, just a 2x2 with a cut line. I'm not going to lie, I was actually surprised I didn't get more views on the Outrider. But with that being said, it is a ship from a very, very, very old video game. And not that many people might either remember or care about the Outrider. But still, I was a little bit surprised. I thought I was going to get a little bit more views with it. And after I saw that, I was a little bit hesitant. I was like, well, do I really need to put out this 4-part mini-series on it? And I was like, you know what? No, I'm just going to go ahead and do it. I don't even care. Because I want to get this out. I actually enjoyed building this ship. I had a lot of fun with it. And when I initially started building this out, I wanted to do it in one episode, and it just didn't work out. I do briefly want to get back when we got going on here. You can see I did a blue builder line. I went down 2 rows, and on the second row down is where we're starting another ring. And we're just literally repeating the same process. We've gone out by 12, and we're just going to copy our template that we've already generated on our pixel circle generator. Very, very simple, just a 2x2. But yeah, no, the Outrider was a lot of fun to do. Like I said, I really wanted to get this. I was trying to speed build it to a point to where I could do this in one episode. That was really my goal. And it just ended up taking a little bit longer than I would have liked. I think it took me just over an hour of recording time to build it out. And I ended up having to break that into 4 episodes because I didn't want to just put out an hour-long episode. I figured that my best case scenario at that... Well, no, I'm mistaken. It should actually be 2 hours. So I have that broken up into 4. And what I'll do is I'll have these episodes coming out weekly, probably on Sunday, just to get a little bit extra content out. So now what we're doing, you can see that I'm adding out a couple of rows here. So we've gone from 6, we've added 3 more to 9. So if we go back to our pixel circle generator and we have a 9x9, that's going to be an 18x18, your full radius. But again, if we do 18x18, it's not going to give us our x-axis point that we need. So we're going to adjust that from 18 to 19. Every once in a while, I come across people, for whatever reason, they can't wrap their head around that concept, and I don't really understand why. Bear in mind, I just kind of think that maybe building stuff like this might not be for everybody. Because I'll try to help people out, and like I'm trying to go over dimensions with them, and they're just not understanding it. And like I think they think I'm coming off as some type of jerk or something when I tell them that it's basic geometry, but that's more or less what this is. Even if you're using, this is one of the reasons why I don't like to show out some of when I'm building out larger scale rings live, because I'll have people, I'll comment and be like, well, my ring doesn't look exactly like yours, so either you made a mistake or you don't know what you're talking about. And I'll try to explain to them, like, okay, I'm like, well, what's the dimensions for your ring that you're entering in? And they go over it with me, and their starting point or something is different, and I'll basically try to explain to them, like, look, you know, with geometry, and that's more or less what this is, your starting points are always going to be the same. Now, one thing that I did come across before that I thought was a thing, but to be honest with you, I don't think it is. I think when you go from pixel circle generator to pixel circle generator, I've actually messed with a couple of different ones because I've had people tell me that it gives them a different template. And from what I've noticed from my experience, it really doesn't. This is one of the reasons why I made a point not to build my Enterprise D rebuild one for one perfect just as it was. I used the tutorial as a reference to get me there, but I wasn't super concerned with building every single block for block. But watch that update video and see if you can spot out the differences. Good luck, because you're probably not going to see them other than the pylons. And that's kind of my point here, is that you don't have to have a perfect one-for-one representation of what I'm making here. If you want to, you can try to get there, but I think at the end of the day, as long as you're following these steps that I'm going over here, it's kind of hard to make a mistake. But you can make variations to it, and I don't think it'll mess it up as long as you're following the basic steps that I'm going over here with our process. I really noticed that with my Enterprise D for the rebuild process. After like I got so far into it, I'm looking at it, I'm like, wow, I'm like, this looks exactly like what I have, even though in the couple of areas of the ship it's not exactly perfect to what it was. And that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of getting a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Not necessarily lenient, but my attitude is changing, I guess, as far as the actual building process of these things. You don't have to have a perfect one-for-one, is basically what I'm getting at here. So I want to get briefly what we got going on here. We've built two blue builder lines going straight back on each side of our outer ring that we just made, well, our outer inner ring. And this is basically going to be what's going to house like the engine bay. We will be coming back to that. For right now, that's just going to be kind of a stand-in template. So now we're going to come back, and we're going to add a layer to our wireframe for the side here, for the right side, and we're just copying the same thing that we have above us, but we're building a total of 3 blocks down, counting that top row. So this way there's a gap in between the two. A 1 block gap. That's basically what you want right here. As long as you do that, you're in good shape. This is why I say having your reference material is so vital to what we're doing. At least that's how I look at it. Look, everybody's different, and if you don't think that's a thing, you know, more power to you, and build these things out the way that you like. But for me, anyway, I like to have reference material. Like, I'll give you an example, like somebody that I really admire, Todd McFarlane. He talks about his action figure line that he has. I was watching an interview with him, and he was basically talking about like how he doesn't understand it because he's gotten all these awards for it, his action figure line, because they look so detailed. And he's like, yeah, he was like, you know, for my whole process, I do a very, very controversial thing. We use reference photos, and we keep working the clay until it looks like the photo. That's more or less what we're doing here. And I've used this trick as an artist, because when you have those reference photos to go off of, you're getting those extra details. You're not going just off the top of your head, and you have that physical reference to look at. And I found that that is just so vital to building these things out. Now, briefly, I want to discuss what we're doing here. So we're taking out the lower right-hand corner of our ring in between this cut here and what's going to become our engine bay, and then we've also squared this out in the back. The reason that we're doing this, because if you look at the top-down view of the Outrider, it has almost a perfect circle going this way, but right here, this whole section here is kind of cut out. And I think we can thicken this up by 1. And don't worry, like the frame of the ship for the back end here is not going to be blue when it's done. I'm just doing something that with a different color to have it stick out a little bit. This way, when I'm set on what I want to do, I can just kind of convert that over and, you know, be done with it. So we went a total of 9 blocks back. We went with a cut, and then we brought it all the way in. That's not looking too bad, actually. Has the spacing that we want there, because we got to think, right where we're at right now, going towards the center, eventually this is going to be where our loading bay for the ship is to get in and out of the ship. I decided that I went back a little bit too far. We went 3 blocks in, and then we're just going to rebuild that same line that we had here, just to kind of tighten it up just a little bit. I think that looks a little bit better. See, I'm going off my straightaway cut line. Here, this is eventually going to be the starting point for our cockpit. And we're just going to build out the wireframe for it, and I'm doing it in blue. And now to cheat, I'm using one of the templates from our inner rings in the center to basically build this out, with the exception of my very middle being a little bit longer. Well, actually no, it's the same. It's 2 by 2. No, we're still right where we need to be. This is something I have adopted from a lot of my ship builds. Where I can, if I can reuse a pattern for a ring, I'm going to do it. And this is a nice step to follow, because it's just helping you save time, more or less. I could have maybe made the outline for the cockpit maybe a little bit smaller, a little bit bigger. That's open to debate. I just kind of decided, I'm like, well, this shape will work by the time this thing is all said and done. I think it'll work out just fine. And luckily enough, it did. Because I got to be honest with you, when I'm building these ships out, or any build in general, I'm not going too crazy sitting there looking at the dimensions of it to make sure that the dimensions are 100% match up with what the real thing is. I don't do my builds this way. I more or less just eye it, and I look at I'll start with my main reference point, like in this case, our initial ring, and I'll look at the proportions of everything else, and I'll match it up to that initial ring. Or in case where I'm building a starship, the saucer. The saucer is my main proportion point for my ships, and I'll proportion out the rest of the ship based off of that initial outline for the saucer. And having those proportions in place, it's really vital to just get the overall shapes right. Because if you look at it this way, you have a guideline to look at when you have that point of reference that you're using, where it's like, okay, I can gauge how big everything is in comparison to that. That's my thought process behind it. So when you start to think that way, and let's say that we build out this ring here and we decide, like, okay, well, we're looking at the overall shape of our cockpit area and we're comparing that to the scale of the rest of the ship. Is the size right? Does it need to be updated? So that's why it's so important there. And you can see what I did here. I basically came back and we built out our initial outline for the cockpit with a 2 by 2, and then I just added a row on the inside and I made an adjustment. So this way we've just got one cut for every corner. And I think that'll work a little bit better than what we had. But I think that's going to do it for us today. I can't believe we shot through 17 minutes. It does not feel like a 17-minute episode. But yeah, I think that's going to do it today. We still have a lot of work done, but like I said, this is not going to be a long tutorial series. It's just going to be 4 parts, and I'm going to be putting this out weekly just to give you guys a little bit extra something while Voyager's going on. But Also, remember, I've got a bunch of great content coming up for you guys in the future. If you want Voyager Season 2, if you want to see the interior of that, then you need to let me know. If you go on my YouTube channel and click on the Communities tab, I have a poll going on right now where you can vote to let me know if that's something that you want to see. I've also got the Excelsior 2 class tutorial that's going to be coming up, as well as the Enterprise A 2.0 tutorial that we'll be doing once we hit 1,000 subscribers. I've actually already started building that ship, and I'm pretty far along in the build process. I haven't put an update out yet. I want to wait until I get at least the wireframe done for the engines and then the bridge, and then I'll put something out for you guys to give you a teaser of that. And then we've also got the Enterprise D Season 2 coming up. And then also another mini build that'll be coming up after the Outrider. We'll be building out the ship from the Mandalorian, the Razor Crest. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode, and I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.